to start to turn it around. If we all could love one another, all the world could be as one. Just take time to love one another, all the world could be as one. Black man, white man, standing together, no more fighting to be done. Yellow, red man, dancing together, all the world could be as one.
And welcome to a very special show this morning on To Heal DC. This is Joni Eisenberg, and Chuck Hicks is here with us in spirit. We are going to be talking about, October is National Co-op Month, and we're going to be talking about building a Black-led, community-driven, just food system, a food system based on justice. And this is the first show of a 3-part series. You can hear at 5 p.m. today with Ambrose Elaine Jr. to the East, talking with another guest on this topic, and also tomorrow at 1 p.m. With Taking Action and Parisa. We'll share more about those shows in a moment. But I want to say, just to start out, the number one message from this program is cease fire now. We will not stand, and we are not standing for a genocide in our name. And we're proud of WPFW for speaking truth. I want to just mention that Graylin Hagler is helping to organize a very important event Thursday at 7 p.m., coming together with the truth at AME Zion Church on 6th Street. And we will be on with Graylin, hopefully on PFW, Thursday at 2 p.m. So again, that's in the topmost of our minds. But I am thrilled to be talking about something extremely positive today with very, very positive people. Actually, my longtime shero and my new time hero as well. People who are really fighting to make a difference to make sure we have healthy food. And I'm going to introduce as well some of the others that will be helping me this morning. But let me start out with welcoming Jessica Gordon Nembhard. She is the author of one of my favorite books, called Collective Courage, A History of African American Cooperative Economic Thought and Practice. And she's a native Washington, D.C., lives in New York City, and teaches at John Jay College. She's very active here, though, a member of One D.C. And we are offering, as our thank you gift, we have a goal of $1,000 today. We are offering 5 copies of her book. Again, a magnificent book. Can be yours for a pledge of $89.30. You can call 1-800-222-9739, 1-800-222-9739. And we'll be talking about other ways you can pledge as well. And I'm going to ask Jessica to introduce our main guest this morning, and that is Yakini. Malik Yakini, really a shining star in this movement for healthy food and much, much more. So good morning, Jessica.
Thanks, Joni, and thanks so much about my book. I didn't realize it was your favorite. I knew you liked it, but anyway, so hopefully we've got 5 copies ready for anybody who makes their pledge. So please go ahead and get yourself a copy of the book. And also thanks, Joni, for reminding us about the need for ceasefire and, no genocide in our names. I appreciate that. We're in trying times. I also always like to start with acknowledging the land, the original stewards of the land, acknowledging our African ancestry and the origins of humanity in Africa. And also we need to acknowledge Mother Earth and our need to protect Mother Earth. So one of those people who does all that, Malik Yakini, right? I think I've been an admirer of his and the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network for about 10 years now. So it's my pleasure to be on this program and to listen to all that they're accomplishing. So he is the executive director and co-founder of the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network. He also talks about himself as a Pan-Africanist, right? So he understands the need to build power, create self-determination and justice for African people. He uses the food sovereignty movement as a starting place to create these kinds of ecosystems. And you're going to learn today about some fabulous stuff happening in Detroit around their new food commons, etc. So I think I will leave it at that. And the last thing I want to say is the DBCFSN was actually one of the first hosts when my book came out. I think in the first 3 or 4 months, they had me in Detroit talking about my book. So that's another reason I've got a place in my heart for Malik and the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network.
Yes, and I want to also say that we have 2 supporters and dear friends joining us throughout the hour. Damian Bascom, who first introduced me to Malik, as well as Jules with 1DC. And Jules, welcome as well. I want to add one sentence to Malik's introduction, which warms my heart. Malik Yakini is adamantly opposed to the system of white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy. And we certainly agree with him with that. So welcome, Malik.
Thank you so much. Let me start, as my sister Jessica did, by acknowledging that, none of us are here by ourselves or of our own volition. That, I personally believe there's a creator or initial causer of causes, if you will. And so I always give honor to that force. And also I think it's important for me to honor my ancestors, because I have learned that some of the work that I'm doing that I thought was of my own volition is really continuing the work that people in my bloodline did. So it's important that we remain grounded within that understanding that we're just links in the chain. Also, I want to give great honor to Sister Jessica, and all of us in the cooperative movement love her and value the important research that she has provided us and given us this ammunition to help move the work forward. And so I always have a particular love for activist scholars. I have to tell you, I'm not very fond of just academics who are in the ivory tower and whose work is disconnected from the on-the-ground work in our community. So when we have an exceptional scholar who's also very grounded in movement work, such as Jessica Gordon Nembhard, we have to love, value, and show our appreciation for her. So thank you so much. And then I'll end by saying that about 3 weeks ago, we changed the name of our organization from the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network to the Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network.
Wow. And as Malik continues, I just want to say that in the horrific things happening in the world, the work that Malik is doing is definitely a ray of sunshine. It gives us all a lot of hope. He's been doing this work for a long time. And just to kind of start with your journey, Malik is going to be sharing some really good news about the opening up of the Detroit People's Food Co-op in a few moments, but I thought it would be good for him to share a little bit about his journey. First, starting with the National Food and Justice, either National Food and Justice Alliance, or I think what you started first was the Detroit Black Communities Food Security Network. Maybe just take us on that journey a little bit.
I want to clarify, and I really think this is important, that I haven't started anything, that I've been a co-founder of it.
Yes.
And I'm constantly kind of resisting this urge in society to promote individual leaders, because the essence of the cooperative movement is really that we're doing this together. And so I'm not quite sure how we've gotten to the point where we have so-called stars in the movement for freedom. So I think what we need to always be doing is centering the collective. So I have co-founded the Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network and co-founded with two brilliant sisters, Dara Cooper and Beatrice Beckford, the National Black Food and Justice Alliance. So I just want to, again, say
Absolutely.
that. And it's less important that we have charismatic leadership, and it's more important that we have, as some people say, leader-full organizations, that we're building capacity throughout our organizations to shoulder the work that we need to move us forward. But in 2006, to give you a very truncated version, after attending a meeting of the Community Food Security Coalition the previous year in 2005, and seeing that what was happening on the national scene within the food security network, within the food security ecosystem, mirrored what I saw in Detroit. And that was that most of the people who were involved in what we call urban agriculture were most of the organizations leading the work were white-led nonprofits who were doing work in Black and brown communities. And so the background I come from a very strong Black self-determination background. And so I don't personally think that white people should lead anything in Black communities. And to be clear, I'm not anti-white people, and I think white people should have an important role to play, but that role is not leading what goes on in the Black community. And so what we saw nationally was that you had organizations who were getting grants to work in what is variously described as underserved, marginalized, intentionally disinvested, all the other words that they use to describe Black communities. And so, in a sense, these nonprofits were disempowering the very communities that they worked in. And I saw the same thing happening in Detroit, where young white people would kind of bounce from nonprofit to nonprofit, and they were friends, and they had this informal network kind of controlling the at least the urban gardening movement in the city of Detroit. And so we think it's important that in Black communities, we are our primary liberators, that we are the ones who define what our aspirations are and the methods that we use to achieve those aspirations, and that those who are supportive of our aspirations and our right to decide for ourselves what is best for ourselves, they should play a supportive role. And so that was kind of the thinking that went into founding the Detroit Black Community, at that time, Food Security Network. We had a few objectives in mind. One of the objectives from the very beginning was to start a food co-op. And that is because we are an anti-capitalist organization. I personally don't think capitalism can be reformed and that we can have a nicer, more compassionate form of capitalism that creates justice and equity. I think the dismantling of capitalism is a necessary prerequisite to Black liberation and the liberation of humanity. So for us, cooperatives is a way to begin to move people to a kind of thinking about what a post-capitalist economy might be and how we can create an economy on a microcosmic level that really reflects the kinds of social and power dynamics and relationships that we like to see in the society that we're trying to bring into being. And so in a sense, for us, co-ops can be the gateway to this larger conversation about how to create a more equitable economy and how to create a more equitable world. But some of our other goals were creating a 2-acre farm at that time, which we've since done and expanded. So it's now a 7-acre farm, D-Town Farm, which is, I think, recognized as, one of the most important urban farms in the country. We have youth programs because we realized early on in our formation that in order for our movement to be sustainable, we have to have young people, that we can't have all people who have gray locks and gray beards leading the work, that, perhaps the people with gray in our heads can, we have something to offer for sure. But in every movement for social change, young people have been kind of the spear of the revolution, so to speak. So we have to intentionally nurture young people who see it as being important to, well, first of all, who see themselves as having a responsibility to shape the system that provides food to them, because most people don't even think about that. We just go to the store, we buy food, we eat, but we don't think about that we have we have the ability to really shape and define what that system looks like and how we interact with it. So anyway, we have 2 youth programs that are designed to nurture leadership in young people. And then, as has been mentioned, we've been leading since 2010, the formation of the Detroit People's Food Co-op and the building that we're building that will house the Detroit People's Food Co-op, which is called the Detroit Food Commons.
I'm sorry. I really am sorry, Malik. We have to take a break to raise some money. I was concerned about doing this during the pledge drive, but because we thought the issue is so important, we decided to do it during the pledge drive. And in a moment, we're going to tell you about the 2 other shows coming today and tomorrow related to this topic. We need to raise $1,000. Today, and Damien's going to help me with to let me know if we got any pledges so far. You can call 1-800-222-9739. You can get a copy of Jessica's magnificent book for a pledge of $89.30, Collective Courage, which basically tells the story of African Americans and the cooperative movement. We also have thank you gifts for Gerald Horn, who is very much a part of this show and this station. We are offering his 2 new books. They're shorter. They're more conversational. They're very, very helpful to understand Gerald Horn's 40 books that he's written before. So you can make a pledge for one of those books, A History of Radical Acknowledgments, or I Dare Say. Those 2 books for a package of $125. Gerald is also going to be with us right here in D.C. on Friday for a pledge of $25. You can come see him at Montgomery College on Georgia Avenue in Silver Spring, or $40 for a pair of tickets. So Gerald Horn on Friday. In addition to the phone number, 1-800-222-9739, you can also go to our website, WPFWFM.org, see the big red Donate Now button and click that. Or you can do Cash App, $WPFW. Put your name and the show that you're pledging to and the amount. The last 2 shows, we made our goal, but the pledges came in later. We couldn't thank everybody. So we thank people now. Damien, let me know. Do we have any pledges yet?
Yes, we have one anonymous pledge that just came in from Silver Spring to go. This is definitely an awesome show. So I want to just encourage people to donate. This is WPFW is a radio station that is based upon our listeners and our audience being able to fund our organization and keep this radio show alive. So we want to thank y'all in advance for donating. And this is an amazing show today. So we can get this show on iTunes. It's recorded and downloaded on WPFW station after the show. People can listen back to it, but please donate today.
Okay. Thank you, Jamie. And so we have how much to go for $1,000 goal?
We still have 900 to go.
Okay, 900. We know we could do it. And I want to also welcome in Jules, who is a part of One DC, who's very much helped to put this show and our other 2 shows together. Jules, could you just share with the listeners the shows that are coming today at 5:00 with Ambrose and tomorrow with Parisa, and welcome and introduce yourself too.
Good morning, Grand Rising fam. I am Jules, and help out in the community in different ways. This afternoon with Ambrose on to the east, we have the wonderful Reverend Dr. Heber Brown with the Black Church Food Security Network, and then on Tuesday at 1 p.m. with Parisa and Daniel on Taking Action. We're going to have National Black Food and Justice Alliance, Dr. Jazz, and Amaha from Gem City Market, Amaha Selassie, and, just continuing to raise and build together and center the collective as has been uplifted by Baba Malik. So.
Yeah, so Jules and Jessica have been very helpful. We're pulling this 3-part series together, and we know this is just the beginning. One of the inspirations or the reasons for doing this now is that there's a concern that 2 of the only grocery stores in east of the river in Ward 7 and 8 may be closing, and if they do close, it will make DC the largest so-called food desert or system of food apartheid on the East Coast. So this is to help begin a deeper conversation on the importance of food systems that are more controlled by the people. So jumping back to our guest, Malik, wherever you want to continue with, and perhaps give us some of your good news about the opening up of the Detroit People's Food Co-op.
Okay, thank you. So I'll continue. I was talking about the formation of what is now the Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network, but you also asked me about the National Black Food and Justice Alliance. And I'll say that my other 2 co-founders, Dara Cooper and Beatrice Beckford, I really want to give them credit because they were in discussions about creating this and then pulled me in as a third person. So I just want to set the historical record straight. But I did work with the 2 of these brilliant sisters to kind of bring it to the finish line and to help to create the structure and bylaws and kind of how this national umbrella organization would operate. I'm very proud to say that now the National Black Food and Justice Alliance has more than 50 organizational members and has a number of individual members. We've really stressed centering organizations because you can't fight entrenched systems of oppression as individuals. You have to be connected to some collective of people who is working and have similar values. So the National Black Food and Justice Alliance now does a number of things, including working on trying to stem the tide of Black land loss, particularly working with the Land Loss Prevention Center, Sister Savvy Horn. We have, for the last 3 years, convened what we call Black-Led Day at the up-and-coming Food Co-op Conference, which is sponsored by the Food Cooperative Initiative and the Indiana Cooperative Development Center. And so we have been able to convince them that it's important that we have a space for Black cooperative developers to convene on our own and to have discussions that pertain to the particular situations that we're faced with in our communities. The Alliance also, yesterday, in fact, I'm returning from the Black Farmers and Urban Gardeners Conference, which was held in Philadelphia this weekend, or the BUGS Conference, people call it for short. And the Alliance always sponsors the third day of the conference, the Sunday session, which is really more focused on strategizing and how we take the information that we gained at the conference and put it in some type of form that can be actionable. And the Alliance does a number of other things, kind of mutual support efforts for its member organizations and a number of other things. People can find out about the National Black Food and Justice Alliance by going to our website, which is www.blackfoodjustice.org.
And in a moment, we're going to hear Malik is also a musician, and we're going to hear a little bit of his music in a moment. But Malik, just tell us a little bit about your group that you perform with. And we're going to hear.
I lead a band in Detroit. I've been a guitar player for many, many years. And for me, kind of the cultural parts of the movement and the so-called political parts of the movement go hand in hand. And if we look at the Black Liberation Movement in the 1960s, we had the accompanying kind of Black arts movement that gave fuel to the folks who were in the streets. So I lead a band called Molly Wop. I don't know if people can see that with the glare. This is an album we put out called Stand Up. And, we're all over on all the streaming services and what have you. I would suggest people check it out. But the idea is we've created a band that plays, in fact, sometimes I call it a genre, I don't know if I'll say genre bending or, we're not confined by any genre. So we play music that people might classify as funk. We play music that some people might classify as rock. We play reggae. We play things that have jazz elements in it. We have elements of African music in it. So I don't know what it's called. People who label music, that's usually the people who are marketing the music. And, music is a thing that kind of comes to you or comes through you. And when it comes through you, it doesn't come with the label saying this is this type and this is, it's music. And so we have many different elements in our music. But I think the thing that really has popularized our performances is that all of our music is conscious. It's all designed to help people elevate themselves individually, help our community elevate ourselves collectively, and to speak out against a number of the conditions that we find ourselves faced with. So Molly-Wop, over the last 9 years now, has played around Detroit lots and lots of times, mainly outdoor festivals the last 3 years. We've also, though, played at the African American Cultural Festival in Brooklyn a couple of years ago. And we seem to have people who like us all over the country and in other parts of the world.
And maybe sometime, hopefully, we could bring you to D.C.
We would love to come to
Yes, for many reasons.
Yeah, I think D.C. would love us also.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely. You're definitely part of the family without people even meeting you yet. But you're very much part of DC. We have a few seconds of the one of the cuts from the album that Malik Yakini was just talking about. And this piece is called Reparations.
Brothers, sisters, we must all take a stand. All of the America's Caribbean to the motherland. Brothers, sisters, we must all become one. For indeed, time is now, work must be done.
That was just a little sneak preview of Malik's band. And reparations. We're going to definitely share it with our other sisters and brothers on the air. And again, you're listening to Heal DC. We wish we could have Malik, and someday maybe we will have a in-person meeting in DC with some of the people and organizations you're going to be hearing from tonight at 5 and tomorrow at 1. There's a lot to say. This is To Heal DC, 89.3 FM. We're in the middle of our fall pledge drive, and we have a goal of $1,000. You can, and I'm going to ask Jessica in a moment to talk a little bit about her book, Collective Courage, which gives the history of African Americans and the cooperative movement. You can make a call to 1-800-222-9739 or WPFWFM.org. Just hit the red button and make a donation. Or you can make a pledge very easily on Cash App. $ Cash App, put the name of the show, To Heal DC, your name, and if you could also squeeze in your email so we can thank you. Damien, any people, any more pledges come in?
Yes, we have Dora Lee out of Washington.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yes, she is pledging for the Jura Horn package.
Let me just say, I just want to say, Dora Lee is part of this show. We had an organization before we had the radio show, and Dora Lee is definitely one of my sisters. She's part of my family. I love her dearly. I miss her, and I love you, Adora. Okay, Damien, that's really a blessing.
That's amazing. She made a really beautiful donation to the Gerald Horns package. And now we have $660 to go.
Okay, we know we can do it. Again, 1-800-222-9739, or pledge online on our website, WPFWFM.org. And Jessica, we've had you on the air a number of times in the past 10 years, but not recently. Tell our listeners a little bit about your wonderful book, and later on in the next year that there's going to be a new edition of the book. But tell us about Collective Courage.
Yeah, I also wanted to follow up with a couple of things that Malik said. Oh, wait, first I wanted to tell everybody that I have been a member of WPFW for at least 25 years. I'm a sustaining member at the moment, so I do a monthly pledge. You didn't talk about monthly pledges, but I have an automatic monthly pledge, so I'm never behind on supporting WPFW.
Yay.
So I was also excited to be a part of the fund drive and to be able to get my press to donate 5 books so that you all could both have access to my books, but also another reason why you should become members of WPFW. So I add my pledge, my call to people, right, to support this station. But there were a couple things that Malik said that I wanted to follow up on. I love that you talked about it's not about a charismatic leader, right? It's about groups of people and the collective, and how important that is for us to understand this movement, right? And that it is about mutual aid, solidarity, all of us working together. Some of the historic information that I found, I often tell people I found 3 most prolific periods in U.S. history for Black co-op development: the 1880s, 1930s and 40s, and the 1960s and 70s. I believe the 2020s are probably becoming our 4th most prolific period because of all the stuff you'll be hearing and that you've been hearing today and you'll be hearing with this pledge drive. But one of the commonalities between those periods was strong Black organizations that were promoting co-op development and that were creating that sense of solidarity and collective action to help people to move forward, to do the things they needed to do to create economic justice, right? So often these groups might have started out looking at racial justice and civil rights, but realized that you can't get to racial justice or civil rights without economic justice, and economic justice is gained through economic democracy, and co-ops are one of the strategies to achieve economic democracy. So I want to reiterate what Malik said about that, right? It's all part of a larger movement. It's all about people and organizations, building relationships and building organizations that make us strong enough to do what we have to do in the economic sphere. And also, the way he combines culture, music and culture with politics and economics is also really important because, again, we're doing this as human beings. This is about the struggle to regain our humanity, right? And to maintain and perfect our humanity. And again, noticing that it's not just political, it's not just social, it's not even just cultural, right? Part of regaining our humanity and asserting our humanity is doing our economics in humane ways and doing economics in a way. And so I was able to chronicle the ways that African Americans have been doing that since we were brought here in chains. When we didn't even own our own bodies, we were doing mutual aid and collectivity. We were doing small little kitchen gardens. On Sundays, we were gardening for ourselves so that we could feed our families, ourselves, and our neighbors better food than what the masters were giving us, right? So from there, we were pooling money to help each other buy our freedom, right? Even you can look at the Underground Railroad system as a social and economic solidarity system, right? Moving people from enslavement to freedom, right? Through sharing of all the resources we had, between the knowledge of where to go, between somebody who had a wagon, somebody who had food, somebody who had a house with a basement where you could hide people, right? So collecting all those resources that made it possible to move people out of enslavement. So from that early, right, work to then informal mutual aid societies in general, just pooling resources to help ourselves bury our own dead. So we had some dignity, helping the sick, helping widows and orphans, etc., to actual co-ops, mutual insurance companies, co-op businesses, co-op food stores, starting often with buying clubs, all the way to worker co-op factories. Even in the 1800s, actually in the 1880s, we had owned factories, sawmills, and things like that. Because again, people saw how important it was to control our own means of production, as some people say, control our own economic activity so that we could do it in a way that supported the most number of people.
And again, this book is a magnificent book. Next year, it will have been out for 10 years. And some of you listeners remember Faye Williams with Sister Space and Books. She was so excited years before this book came out, keeping me updated on that.
She used to email me or call me every week. Have you finished the book yet? How far have you gotten on the book? Is the book done yet? She was one of my champions, and because of her persistence, she kept me going.
Absolutely. And she kept me excited about this book. There's so many magnificent chapters. I'm just going to mention one because this is a book that you listeners should really get. It's available right now on this show, but one of the part 2 is called Deliberative Cooperative Economic Development, and one of the chapters is called Continuing the Legacy, Nannie Helen Burroughs, Helena Wilson, and the Role of Black Women. And we could spend a whole day on that chapter alone. And of course, Fannie Lou Hamer, whose birthday it just was a couple weeks ago. And I'm sorry to ask you this, Jessica, but if you could just in a moment talk about Helena Wilson.
Oh, yes. And she just got inducted into the Co-op Hall of Fame early this month, actually on Fannie Lou Hamer's birthday, as an unsung hero. She was the president of the Ladies Auxiliary to the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. So, the independent Black union started by A. Philip Randolph. She ran the Ladies Auxiliary for about 30 years. And one of the main projects, actually the Ladies Auxiliary came out of Women's Economic Security Council that got started as soon as the Brotherhood started. And then they morphed themselves into what they call the Ladies Auxiliary. And one of their main tenets was to do consumer and cooperative education because they believed that it wasn't good enough just for their families to be in unions, right, to bring in union wages, but those union wages for Black folks needed to recirculate in the Black community. And again, how do you do that? You do that by asserting yourself as a consumer. Now you had stable economic income as a consumer who was involved in collective spending. So having credit unions, having buying clubs and food co-ops and other co-ops in order to make sure that money stayed in the Black community was used and controlled by Black folks. So she started over 17 co-op study groups among the chapters of the Ladies Auxiliary throughout the U.S. and in Montreal. The Brotherhood started a credit union in Montreal. They started a food co-op in Chicago. And she also wrote in the Black Worker, the Brotherhood's magazine. She wrote articles continuously for 30 years about co-ops and how important they were and how important it was for Black community control over finance and over our money and what happened to it and where it went and what we spent it on.
And that's just one story in Jessica's magnificent book. And Helena Wilson is part of the story of the Sleeping Car Porters. Someday soon, we're going to do maybe next year a show on sleeping car porters. And the person who just made a pledge, Adora Lee, told me many years ago that her grandmothers or some of her ancestors were women involved with the sleeping car porters. So we're going to be hearing those stories. You're listening to Heal DC. This is one of a 3-part special talking about the movement for a food justice system, which we definitely do not have in this country. We have food apartheid, and we have a system based on money. How much money can you spend making sure people only eat sugar and unhealthy food, etc.? So we're very thankful to have 2 of our guests, Jessica Nembhard, the author of Collective Courage, and Malik Yakini. And Malik, I'm sorry, we're quickly running out of time, but you have some very good news that you could share with the listeners. Very exciting to hear you talk about the opening of the Detroit People's Cooperative. So if you could share a little bit of that with us.
Sure. So I mentioned that we've been working on this project since 2010. We were incredibly naive when we started. We thought we would have it done in 2 years. It's taken us quite a while. Part of what took so long, though, is that we were determined to own the land, so-called own the land, that we have the building built on, and we were determined to build the building from the ground up. So had we just rented a space, we probably could have done it sooner. But finally, after 13 years of effort, we are projecting the Detroit People's Food Co-op to open probably in the first or second week of March. We're still working through a few construction issues, transformers and what's called switch gears and things like that. And so some of those things are a little out of our control, and we've gotten a few delays over the last few weeks, but still, it seems like by March, we will be open finally. That'll be our soft opening. Then we're doing a grand opening in April that we're going to invite our national community to. Many people across the country have said they're coming to it, and we'll have bands and food and lectures and all kinds of exciting things for the grand opening. So that's what's coming up. Also in the building, I'll just say this very briefly, the Detroit People's Food Co-op occupies the first floor. On the second floor of the building, we have 4 shared use kitchens that can be rented out by food entrepreneurs of various scales. We also have a 3,000 square foot community meeting space where we can hold various types of community meetings, as well as receptions, celebrations, and things of the like. And we're moving the offices of the Detroit Black Community Food Sovereignty Network into that building. So we're excited about the opening of the Detroit Food Commons and of the Detroit People's Food Co-op.
Yes, very exciting news. And Jessica, I think you wanted to jump in with an important question.
Yeah, Malik, I wanted you to talk more about the name change, right? Moving from talking about food security to food sovereignty, because I think that's a really important distinction and important for us to make sure to get out.
Thank you, Sister Jessica. So food security at its base means that people are not hungry, that people have enough calories to do what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Some more progressive activists have added other elements to the definition of food security, like that the food is grown in sustainable ways, or perhaps it's grown locally, or that it's culturally appropriate. But at its base, food security means that people are not hungry. And while that is an important goal, and certainly a goal that should be the general norm in American society, in a society this rich, it's absolutely obscene that anybody would be hungry. But still, that's a low bar. My friend Raj Patel has reminded me that you can have food security in prison. And so clearly what we're striving for is something more than just people having enough calories. And that's something more that we're striving for is what La Via Campesina, the International Peasant Organization, has defined as food sovereignty. And they have, if people want to Google La Via Campesina, they can get a much more extensive definition of what food sovereignty is. But I'll give you kind of a truncated definition, which is that basically the producers and consumers of food define the food system instead of market forces. And so we think that that is a much more important goal, that we are helping to shape and define the food system rather than just saying that people have enough calories. If you're only trying to get people enough calories, then you would see it as being a win if a Walmart moves into a community that formerly didn't have good access to a grocery store. So on one level, yes, people may have greater access to food and may be able to get those calories they need to survive. But on another level, they have no say-so in defining what happens within that store. They derive no profits from that store. They may be able to go there and get a minimal wage job, which often, people kind of tout that as some kind of success. But again, food sovereignty puts us in the driver's seat and has us defining the food system rather than just being consumers at the end of a process.
Absolutely. And of course, we remember on WPFW here on this show, and of course at our 2 p.m. show, To Your Health, we have a huge epidemic of diabetes in this country, not to mention heart disease, etc. And of course, one of the leading causes of diabetes is, really poisonous food, sugar, and all kinds of stuff that is not healthy that causes these diseases. So what Malik and people up in Detroit and other places throughout the country, including here, are trying to do is bring in a community-led healthy food system. And we have to take another little pitch break. And Damien, you can let me know how much, if we got any more pledges, how much we need to go. We have a higher goal than other shows, $1,000 for the hour. Again, you can make a call to 1-800-222-9739. 1-800-222-9739. You can do it quickly, but with Cash App, $ WPFW. Put in your name and put in the amount and the show that you're donating to. You can also go to our website, WPFWFM.org, and click on the Donate Now. And as Jessica so correctly mentioned, you can make a sustaining pledge, and that is, you can pledge for $10, $20 a month. I know some of you can't afford $20 a month. And if we had perhaps 2 people making that $20 pitch goal pledge, we would make the goal. Damien, how do we have any new people to thank, or how much do we have left to go?
Right now, I think all our listeners are just engaged into this amazing show, and they're getting ready to call in. So we still have the 660 to go. And like I said, please call in. You can catch this show on archives at WPFW. And as Joni said, you can also Cash App us. And you can get the book, by Jessica Gordon-Menzart, Collective Courage. Really great book that really inspired me. It taught me a lot about cooperatives also.
Yes. And of course, this show has been around for over 3 decades, and we're all volunteers here, and we're coming together to try to make a healthier world, a world which we can all have a right to live. So 1-800-222-9739. And let's jump back. We have a few more minutes to go, and perhaps Jessica and Malik can give their final comment, and then Jules can jump in and remind people of the 2 other shows that are coming today and tomorrow. So, Jessica, your final comment for today. You got a couple of minutes.
Got a couple minutes. Okay.
Yes.
So I think I'll talk about a few more things that I was able to cover in the book. It's kind of hard to come after all the great current things that are happening in Detroit and other places, but I'll try to get us back a little bit to what our legacy has been. So as you mentioned, Joni, I have a whole chapter on the role of Black women because there was such a strong, I actually was surprised when I started doing the research to find such a strong role for Black women in the co-op movement, in the mutual aid movements. You even heard it already in Malik's story about the people that he worked with. His co-founders have been strong Black women. And so there's a great story there about the different women's groups, as well as names that we know of that we didn't realize were in the co-op movement. I also found, which I think Malik also talked about, how important the role of youth has been in the Black co-op movement, both because of the freshness and the energy that young people bring, but also because young people bring sustainability, right? When we're doing these things, if we don't have young people involved, it's often hard to keep things going and to keep next generation happening. And so getting young people involved from the beginning, they understand cooperative economics earlier on than the rest of us do. They have that energy, but also the sustainability. They can come in. I've studied some youth co-ops, which are really fascinating. There was one in South Central LA and Crenshaw in the 1990s. One of the lessons, and in a minute I'll tell you that quickly that story, but one of the lessons was how they understood succession planning, because they were students in a school garden and they were going to graduate. So they were always continuously teaching the class, the grade before them, the middle school kids. So they were doing a garden. They did salad dressing. They sold it actually on Amazon, and they made enough money to send their graduating members to college to do college scholarships. So all that kind of understanding of this village, of this ecosystem that we create, including young people, is important, I think. So I'll end there.
Okay, and thank you very much, Jessica Nembhard, author of Collective Courage. I don't know we've gotten any pledges yet for that book. It's a magnificent book, can be yours for a pledge of $89.30. I'm going to ask, before Malik gives a final thought, Jules, if you could jump in and just share what's happening again. This is the first of a 3-part series, and we're going to have 2 other shows. So, Jules, you can mention what they are.
Thank you kindly, Joni. So coming up later on today, we have To the East that's going to be featuring Reverend Dr. Heber Brown with the Black Church Food Security Network. And then tomorrow, Tuesday at 1 p.m., with Parisa and Daniel on Taking Action, we're going to have Dr. Jazz, National Black Food and Justice Alliance, and Amaha Selassie from the Gem City Market. So, feel free to tap in, check in with what's going on, as far as this program, and, exchange with people, learn, and, we can grow together.
Absolutely. And I want to thank Jules very much. This program and this project is a cooperative project. Jules is very much a part of the team, as is Jessica. And I also want to thank Chris Bradshaw with Dreaming Out Loud, who was very much helped to put this together as well.
And I want to thank Jules too. Jules DeRoche, thanks so much. You've been such a help, and it's a pleasure to work with you.
Absolutely, Jules. Yes, thank you. And thank you, Jessica. I could not have done it without their help, and also the help of Chris Bradshaw. So thanks. This is definitely a cooperative show. And with that said, Malik, you have a couple more minutes to give your final thoughts today.
Thank you. So again, I want to say how honored I am to be on the show, and particularly with our Shiro, Jessica Gordon Nembhard, who we all hold high. And I'll end by saying that really we are cooperatives. Even if you look at our anatomy, the way the human body functions, all these different parts have to work together with kind of in a symbiotic way. And if we look at pre-colonial African culture, and let me qualify the statement before I say it, that I'm not a believer in what some people call Africana Gloriana, that everything was cool in Africa, then white people came and messed it all up. We had our internal contradictions also. But I think it would be fair to say that largely the culture in Africa prior to colonialism was largely cooperative. And again, I don't want to make an absolute statement, because there's a lot of, certainly we had kings and rulers who were in some way tyrants. And, so again, not perfect societies, but largely cooperative. And so really cooperation is in our DNA. It's who we are. And we I think have the responsibility, Black people, that is, to model really what it means to be a human being. I heard Sister Jessica earlier say something about, kind of perfecting it. I might not be quoting her, verbatim, but I mean, this is our work to figure out what does it mean to be a human being on the earth in community with other human beings. And so I think our responsibility as Black people, as the first people on the earth, which is beyond, even debate at this point, it doesn't make us better. It doesn't mean that Black people are better than anybody else on the planet. But for me, what it means is it gives us more responsibility, because we were the first human beings and we have the responsibility of modeling what humanity looks like. So I think we still have that responsibility. And I think that the cooperatives are one way that we create these kind of microcosmic models of what we would like to see in the future in a society. You know, how do human beings relate to each other? How do men and women relate to each other? How do women and women, how do we create just, equitable, respectful relationships that manifest not just in, one-on-one personal relationships, but manifest within the structures in society. And so, I'll end by saying that we have the power, we have the innate power to create our own destiny. And sometimes we get discouraged by these what we perceive as more powerful forces. And we think, oh, this is just the way the world is. We don't have any way to really change it. And we just kind of go along with the program. But we are the definers of our own reality. And I just want to leave people with that thought. And because it's a tremendously empowering thought, both on a personal level and also on a collective level.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Malik Yakini. Thank you very much, Jessica Nembhard. Thank you, Jules. Thank you, Damien. And we have the power to keep this radio station alive. As Gerald Horne will say, now because is an extremely important moment for WPFW to be strong and to be well. We still have about $600 to go, but I'm going to just pray that the station will continue. We really need your help, folks.
Please donate.
Well, this is no joke, folks. We have staff to pay. If we don't meet this pledge drive, it's going to be trouble paying the rent, etc. I know people take the station for granted.
I'm pledging 100.
Thank you, Malik. Thank you so much.
We should be able to get people to donate $500 in the next minute or so. That should be easy. Okay, I'm putting in 100 and challenging 5 other people to match me like now.
Come on, folks.
Donate.
We know Miyuki can raise $5,000 in 2 minutes. We can raise we could do it as well. So we can raise another what is it, Damien? How much do we have to go? About $5?
Yeah, we have $460 to go now.
Okay, we can do that in 2 minutes. The music people do it all the time, and we're the talk show people, jazz and justice. We needed both. 202-588-9739 or Cash App, WPFW. Go to the website, WPFWFM.org, and make a sustaining pledge. Just 2 of you doing $20 will bring us to the goal. We want to go out with the last little piece of Malik's reparations song. And again, stay tuned 5 p.m. for Ambrose's part 2. And tomorrow, Parisa's part 3, 1 p.m. Taking Action, 5 p.m. To the East. We're talking about building a world together, collectively. And we're also reminding you that we stand for ceasefire in Palestine. And stay tuned for Graylin Hagler is going to be sharing Thursday at 2, an important meeting he's convening Thursday night at 7. So stay tuned to us. Thanks to everybody. And together we can change the world.
So the path has been clear, and the African anti-nature are the things we are dear. Rally the troops, the call been made for when we go. Pan-African nation time, there is a debt that is owed reparation. Reparation.